In a previous video, we talked about the largest cell on the planet. Ostrich egg is the largest living cell on the planet. It weighs almost 3 pounds. I have 100 trillion cells in my body. Ostrich egg is trillions of times larger than every cell in my body. When it comes to the length of this is almost 6 inches long or 15 centimeters long. But there is one type of cell in my body that's longer than the ostrich egg. Microscopic, very, very small, but longer than the ostrich egg. These cells are called nerve cells. These nerve cells, they make our nervous system, our brain, our spinal cord, and our nerves. Sometimes they're called neurons also. The neurons are the nerve cells. Let's look at the structure of these neurons before we start talking about the longest neuron on the planet. This is a generalized diagram of a neuron in the human body. When you look at this neuron is very much similar to any other cell in the human body. You have a plasma membrane, you have a nucleus, you have cytoplasm in this area, and all these organelles that we have in our cells, they're packed up in here. Now, another thing that's really special is that the plasma membrane in this case is produced into those thread-like structures which are called the dendrites. These dendrites, they are little anchors or thread-like structures. They pick up the impulses of sensations, the information from outside. That information is transmitted to this body cell, and this body cell is going to transmit that information to this thread-like structure that's called the axon. And this axon is going to take that information to the brain or to the spinal cord or to the other nerves, to the muscles. And so at the end of the axon, you have more dendrites. These dendrites are able to transmit the information that this cell picked up to the other parts of the body, in other words. In my case, when we look at the neuron, the sensory neurons, they look like that. Let's say that the body cell of the sensory neuron is in my fingertips right there, and from here that information is going to pick up the information about the touch and the sensations that I'm feeling in my fingertips, and that sensation is going to be transmitted to the axon, and this axon is going to take that information to my spinal cord, and those dendrites are going to transmit that information to my spinal cord. Now in my case, I used the meter stick and I measured how long my arm was to my spinal cord, and this is how much it looked like. It looked like 3.3 feet or 1 meter. I mean, I'm 6'1" male, and if I'm 6'1" male, in my case it's 1 meter. Probably the people who are taller than me, it's going to be a little bit more. People who are shorter, it's going to be a little bit less. That's the general idea. But in average size male, you can say the sensory neuron in our case is like 1 meter long. In the Santa Barbara Zoo, and that's where we have our second example. Giraffes are the tallest animals on the land. A fully grown giraffe, the neck of the giraffe can be as long as 8 feet. Right here, when you look at this, the 8 feet long neck can be there in a fully grown giraffe. But the front legs of the giraffe can be as long as the necks. So the front legs right here, they can be as long as 8 feet also. Now in this case, let's say that we have the sensory neuron that's in the front leg of the giraffe, and the body cell is in the hoof of the giraffe. The hoof has 3 or 4 layers. Outside layer is the dead gummy material, dead gummy tissue, and inside you have the live tissue. You have blood vessels and everything else inside the hoof. Let's say this body cell is located inside the hoof right there, and This body cell is going to pick up the sensation of the pain, sensation of the pressure, sensation of the touch from the hoof, and that's going to transmit these electrochemical impulses to the axon of this cell. And this axon is going to take all these impulses to the spinal cord. When it takes all these impulses to the spinal cord, at the end of the axon, we have the dendrites, and these dendrites are going to transmit those impulses, electrochemical impulses, to the spinal cord. And this sensory neuron, in case of giraffe, can be as long as 8 feet or 2.43 meters, and that's what the length of this one sensory neuron is. Most of those axons, they don't go through the leg individually, they go through the nerves, they are packed up inside the nerves, so they go through the nerves, and that's what we are looking at in case of giraffe. Blue whale is the largest living animal on the planet. Their flippers seem to have the largest sensory neurons, but there is no place where I can see the body of the blue whale and take measurements. And then I remembered a place. I'm outside the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History. It's a great museum, but there is something really amazing. If you look in the parking lot, there is something in the parking lot. Let's have a look. It was so good to see this skeleton outside the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History. This was a blue whale skeleton, and this skeleton was more than 80 feet long. Now, the main thing I was interested in was this flipper. When you look at this flipper, it's homologous to our arm. The human arm has the same bones as this flipper, and we can see this in our arm right over here. We have the humerus bone, and in case of whale, blue whale, this is their humerus. The humerus is relatively very small in blue whale as compared to us. And then those are the radius ulna. The radius is the bigger bone, the ulna is smaller, and those are the carpals and the metacarpals and the phalanges, the finger bones right here. Now, in this case, that's the scapula, the shoulder bone. And if there is a sensory neuron right here at the tip of this flipper, that sensory neuron is going to take this information through this flipper, and it's going to go under this scapula and transmit the information to the spinal cord that's inside this backbone, and it's going to be very, very long. So I took a measuring tape with me, and it was very low actually. I could measure it easily, and I measured all of these distances myself. So I want you to see this. The first thing is, let's say that we have a sensory neuron, and this sensory neuron has the body cell. The body cell is located right here. I put it like a foot away from the tip. The chances are there is skin and there is fat and there are some muscles, and that's where the sensory neuron is, at the tip of this flipper. And this sensory neuron is going to pick up the information about the sensations of touch, the sensations of pain, the pressure, and all these things the blue whale is feeling. And then those electrochemical impulses are going to be transmitted to the axon. And this axon is going to take those impulses to the spinal cord. The axon is going to bend from this area, and at the end of that axon, you will have the dendrites again. And those dendrites are going to transmit all these impulses to the spinal cord. And I'm assuming the spinal cord is inside this backbone. And I measured this area. So the area of the whole flipper, when you look at this, it came out to be 11 feet or 3.3 meters long. So this area was 11 feet long or 3.3 meters long. And this area, the scapula and the backbone, I went inside the skeleton. I tried to measure it from inside the skeleton, and that's my good estimation right here. And that area actually was 5 feet or 1.5 meters. Now, if you add up all those distances, because that's what the sensory neuron is going to be, it comes out to be 16 feet total or 4.8 meters total. In other words, you can say in some of the larger blue whales, this sensory neuron can be as long as 5 meters, very, very long, and or 17, 18 feet long in case of some larger whales. If we summarize our findings, the first example we took was the human beings. I took my own example. In my case, the sensory neuron came out to be 1 meter long, 3.3 feet or 1 meter long. And that's a fairly long structure, you can say, as compared to other cells which are very, very small in our body. The second example we took was the giraffe, the tallest animal on the planet. In case of giraffe, their sensory neurons are 8 feet long or 2.43 meters, and that's what we found in case of giraffe. More than double the size than ours, and they had very, very long sensory neurons, the longer cells. But the longest cells on the planet came out to be in the blue whale. In blue whale, they have the longest sensory neurons, and their sensory neurons are 16 feet or 4.8 meters. In other words, they're 5 times longer than us, or more than double the size than the giraffe. And those are the blue whale sensory neurons, or the blue whale cells. So the longest cells on the planet, the living cells on the planet, are in blue whale, the blue whale nerve cells.